thrilled to be here. You have no idea.
Well, my name is Doral also, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but were you in this last season of Lost?
I was.
And how is that like for you, and how did that come about?
It's really funny. And by the way, for those of you that are saying things to me online, like, oh, I loved you in Lost, I loved you on CSI. It's like, you know, actors play parts with various importance levels to the story. And I loved being on Lost, but my character didn't even have a name. It did, when I auditioned, the cab driver's name was Paul. But apparently between then and the final script, they said, yeah, he doesn't need a name. It's just going to be a guy. And it was great. It was awesome. I mean, you know, I'm one of only 3 actors who have been on both Heroes and Lost, and of any appreciable note. And I got that. Did anybody know what casting workshops are? It's a kind of a controversial thing. I go to them because I want to meet my customers. I treat my acting career as a business, right? It's a business. It's the most awesomest business to be in. It's filled with awesome sauce, and it's awesome book. But I want to meet all my customers. I want to get to know them just as surely as I would get to know all of the radio station program directors that I got to know when I was doing a radio show. They're the guys that buy my product. I want to know who they are. And the casting director is the first step in getting booked on a show. So I want to know who I'm talking to and what their peccadillos are and what they expect and what they want. And I took a casting workshop from the woman who casts Lost. And one of the very first questions that people asked in that workshop was, are there any shows on which the actors work that you blacklist from calling in? And she thought for a moment, and she goes, Heroes, I guess? So everybody in the room, I'd been going to casting workshops with for years, and they knew I was on the show, and there was like this, and I picked up all my shit. I'm getting out of here, screw you. And she goes, oh, are you on that show? I was just joking. And she goes, are you on that show? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, I'm so sorry. And the next day she called me in. It was hard. I don't think it was out of guilt. I think, you know, like, agents have a lot to do with whether you get called in. Your work has a lot to do with, I remember this, when I first booked Heroes. Like, Heroes is one of these shows, especially in 2008, after the huge season that they had in 2006 and 2007. It's one of those shows that is so huge that if it's on your resume, the first thing that a casting director says to themselves is, nah, he's lying. He kidding? He's on Lost? No. And the casting people at Lost told me that they would get calls all the time from other casting directors saying, okay, there's this guy, David H. Lawrence, 17th, who's claiming that he's on Heroes, and I thought you should know about it. And they're like, oh yeah, he's on Heroes. He plays Eric Doyle, our puppet master. What? And then I would get called in, and then I would book it, and they would be like, oh, because they don't expect, you know, all the rules are different if you're drop dead gorgeous, and I'm not, you know, self-flagellating here. I just know my place in the hierarchy of beauty. If you're drop dead gorgeous, you can be a total jerk and not such a great actor and really difficult to deal with. But if you're putting butts in the seats, that's all the producers really care about, is what the money is going to be like when you're on the thing. There's like these scales. There's the Ulmer scale and there's the Forbes Bankability Index, where, you know, top of the list. Anybody know who the most bankable actor is these days? No, heavens no. Who? Julia Roberts was for a long time, and Sandra Bullock was until this year.
Angelina Jolie?
No, she's way too expensive, and her films don't do nearly as well as this actor's films do. No, that's close though. Let me tell you, Shia LaBeouf. I know. It's like I'm watching. How many of you have gone to the theater lately and have watched the trailers for Devil? And the moment M. Night Shyamalan's name comes up, people start laughing. It's like he's a punchline now. I feel so bad for him, you know? But anyway, what was the question? No. I really do forget where I was. No, I talked about Shia LaBeouf. It's the bankability. What? Ulmer scales. Yeah, go further back. Come on, help me out here. Casting. Thank you. Okay. So casting directors, she would get the call every so often that was I on the show, because they don't expect, if you're not that good looking or if you're just sort of plain looking, they don't expect you to have that kind of success. Or when you're at that moment when you've had a really interesting first round of great success, but the rest of the world that doesn't watch Heroes didn't know about it yet. Because people would come up to me all the time, they go, people are asking you for your autograph, I guess I should know who you are? And I'm like, no. What did you do? It's like now a moment of curiosity for them, because they want to know why they're making such a big deal. And I was on this show called Heroes. Oh yeah, Heroes, I never watched that. And I'm like, well, I understand. I mean, every week we had 14 million people that would watch, just in the United States alone. Which meant there were 349 million people that didn't watch the show each week. So you're in the vast majority having not watched Heroes. But I loved working on Lost. I know what I was aiming towards. People will send me notes all the time going, I loved you on Lost, I loved you on CSI. On CSI, I was on screen in the shadows for less than a quarter of a second. And I loved me on CSI because I got to pay my mortgage that month. But I really wonder what fans saw, if they saw anything. I think usually people see what my credits are and they go, oh, I'll say that to him because it's something to say. And it's fine, I understand that. We're often at a loss for words. In Los Angeles, the go-to phrase is, I love your work. I love your work. Who's next?
Well, first I would like to say, I was glad Siler didn't kill you.
What?
I was glad Siler didn't kill you.
Oh, me too.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, me too. Every time.
If there had been another season, where did you see your character at Heroes going? I don't know if you had covered that. I can't recall.
I see my character becoming a series regular. Most of the episodes built around Eric Doyle. And try as I might, I could not actually move Tim in that direction. Although he really liked the character, he really liked what I did with it. There's an interview from when we were on set shooting the webisodes where we just sniff each other's jock left and right, how much we love each other. And we really, I love the show, and he is really genuinely sincere when he says the wonderful things that he says about me. Spinoff #1 on the call sheet, that's what I see happening with Heroes, and me. But it would have been awesome to see what would happen in terms of, thank you, 10 minutes, in terms of how the general public would treat specials. It's like with the series as it was everything was hush-hush. And so when someone normal would discover that you were special, there was some sort of a emotional reaction and moment of panic or fear or joy, because then they could reveal that they were special, or that's what sort of made the series special, is how people reacted. That's what acting is, watching people react to one another. But I imagine that we could have brought in really great storylines about prejudice and racism, sexism, ageism, powerism of a sort, where people forget that they're specials, they can crush you, but that's okay. You can make fun of them if you want to. You want to put up signs, special go home, I don't know. It would have been rife with stories on how being out in the open would have affected their individual lives. And I can tell you that I can't wait to see No Ordinary Family this fall and see how they handle that whole issue. Do you know about the Julie Benz? Of course you do. Silly me to ask, room filled with you, whether or not you know about No Ordinary Family. Jesus. So it would have been great, and I know that they kept me alive. In fact, this was one of the best parts, other than the, hey, we've rewritten your ending. On the final page of the final episode of the last season of Heroes, in the stage direction, when I'm sort of hanging, wrapped up in the Christmas lights, and I'm like groggy because I'm not dead, it says in the stage directions, Eric Doyle is hanging groggy and must be shown to be very much alive. My agent read that and he went. So that's what I was hoping would happen, is that they would move me up in the hierarchy. And it's because of you guys, believe me. It is because of you. I did my part, and then you guys, and the writers did their part, and the guys who shot the thing did their part, and the editors did their part, makeup and hair and all. And then you guys made my career possible. Because if you didn't like the character, they could have easily killed me off. But you guys made it possible. So thank you very much. Thank you so much.